up, YouTube? You already know. Big Lou tapping back in. One more again. The Latin assassin himself. What it do with Big Lou and MCR2? Baby, baby. Bye. So, I'm pretty sure you guys can tell from that thumbnail who that is. If you guys don't know who it is, I'll give you a brief rundown who that is. So, that's none other than Gene Barillo, um, former Bonanno associate, um, who can't seem to stay out of his own way, right? He decided to flip on some uh, big name individuals, on OC back in New York, and one has recently passed away. He was an old man in his 80s, Vincent Asaro, and the other individual he rolled on is Vinny Asaro's nephew, Ronnie G. Alonso, right? Um, and the dude just can't stay out of his way. So, like I said, he flipped on some people. He went ahead and testified. He was given a second chance at life, right? Second chance at life, as they seemed how they stated, and he's returned to custody 3 or 4 or 5 times now since then. A few of the time, I will say, a couple of well, for sure, one of the times um, he was returned to custody to finish up his paper, being on paper with this federal probation and all. Um, Partly due to the fact that he was on the internet and they weren't liking that, the way he was speaking and things of that nature. Nonetheless, still, in my opinion, very weak excuse. Because if you see how, if those of you know who this individual is, then you guys know how childish he acts, how he goes from 0 to 60 real fast, and he just talks out the side of his neck or at the other end of his arse, right? Always threatening people, always talking about he'll whoop them, and he's the toughest dude around, and recently he was in another interview somewhere. I think it was No Jumper, which is located here in California, but Southern California. I'm in Northern California. Everybody seems to think I'm in LA for some reason. I don't know why. I'm very far from LA. I'm about at least 3.5 hours north of LA, if not a little longer, a little further, depending on how fast you drive, how the traffic is, and how you put that pedal to the metal. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, how fast you drive. But he made reference that he has a couple bodies on his. It was apparent from what I've heard from other people that he was drinking and he was tipsy and he was a little feeling himself. You know what I'm saying? Um, so with that being said, with him speaking in that manner about having bodies, and him being, intoxicated as he was, he definitely just talking out the side of his ass. That once again, right, trying to make himself look like more than what he really is. When if you want to be, let's be real about it. I mean, he was in the trenches with a few heavy weights. You know what I'm saying? There ain't no doubt about it. But um, a lot of his stories are just they're just too far. It's just too much. Like, he'll tell you that, oh, he was in Rikers, and then him and Frankie Pasquale they were just checking a bunch of gang members left and right in the day room, taking the remote. And come on, man, that ain't happening. I don't give a fuck how tough you are, especially in a setting like that where there's you're talking about you're punking a set of gang members. That ain't happening, Captain. I mean, yeah, there might be an instant or two, but it's not gonna be like some ongoing thing and where the guys are gonna be scared. Nah, that's not how it works. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna keep going after you till they get you out the way, and that's just the way it is. And we're talking about with weapons. We're not talking about just fist fighting. You know what I'm saying? So, but when they're talking to an audience that don't know better, they buy all this fucking candy ass shit. You know what I'm saying? So, it's just I'm just saying, man. The dude, I seen him come on a couple different shows where, somebody in the comments saying something that he don't like. So the person that's running the channel invites people to come on. Here they come on, and and the first word or two the guy says, this guy, this bozo comes out with, suck my this and this and that, and it's like, what the hell is going on here? Like what's going on? Oh, my bad, I stepped on your foot. Oh, go lay down, boy. Um, so um, it's just nonsense how this guy carries himself. Like, you know, always bragging about being a convict, being locked up, and this and that, but yet you really don't you don't carry yourself like a convict. Period. Now it's not nothing to be be proud about that you've been to the pen, but or the joint, right? Whatever word you want to use there. That's a very interchangeable word. You can say the pen, you can say the joint, prison, you can say the big house, you can all kinds of different words you can say, right? The pinta, the prisión, um, you know, but when you're constantly bringing it up, but yet you favor a certain behavior of others, and you are steadily just talking out the side of your ass, out the side of your neck, out the side of the other end of your mouth, however you want to state it. It gets old, and it gets old real fast. You know what I'm saying? Now, normally I don't make these kind of videos, but I have recently. Shit just got to be called out sometimes. You know what I mean? And this dude bubbles off his story. And it's just one of those things. Like I said, man, when you get a certain audience, people from Nebraska, Montana, Wyoming, overseas that are, from overseas that ain't, from the main, how would I say, like the main, main cities, more from a rural area, you tend to buy these stories by people, and because some people come from New York or LA or Detroit or Chicago, where it's, dangerous places, more dangerous and well-known places compared to if you said I'm from, if you say you're from, uh, like Dearborn, Ann Arbor, Michigan, or anywhere here in California that ain't one of the big cities. People ain't gonna know where that's at. They're not really probably gonna might not be interested in it compared to if you said Detroit, Michigan. You know what I'm saying, or Chicago, Illinois, instead of Joliet, Illinois, or even Cicero, even though it's right there. You know what I mean? So people tend to buy these stories, the narrative, and and I'm not saying the dude wasn't with semi with the business or with the business fully, but you can only take so much of it at truth. You know what I'm saying? At true value, because he's been caught lying, and his behavior. The behavior alone shows, and the way in this behavior, like I said, of just always spewing nonsense on multiple platforms. If the dude just carried himself at a normal, with some normalcy, if that's really a word, being normal, I would say, like he was when he was on what's it called, corrupt. Oh man, Tony Handsome. I can't think of his channel. Something corrupt. That interview with that interaction he had with Tony Handsome, that was cool. He was being normal. He was being just speaking. Questions were asked. He would just answer them. He didn't come off with all this tough guy shit and all this going to 0 to 60 in a second and a half. You know what I mean? Talking about he got bodies and all that nonsense. You know what I mean? Um, I do think the dude is kind of intelligent, the way articulate, the way he presents himself. When he's acting normal though, and it's obvious that he's got some mental health issues. You know what I'm saying? Um, you know, um, Whining, crying in court, and all that. That's not nothing that a convict does. You know what I'm saying? I mean, especially if you're gonna do it, you did it. Your mama comes and she's crying not to lock you up, and then you keep your life on track where you don't keep coming back and having issues, right? I'll never forget when that image of me seeing him on that video when his girlfriend, who they're supposedly toxic for each other, which I can buy that, right? When she's talking about, oh, you ruined the door, and we rented this motel or this hotel, and she's yelling, oh, I'm gonna fix it. And he's talking like a little baby, like he's a kid. I'm gonna fix it, and then she says something like, well, whose card's on it? Whose card do they have? Meaning her credit card or her debit card. Well, yours, but I'm gonna fix it. And he's talking like he's a little 4 or 5 year old kid. Like, I mean, it's obvious the boy he needs help. He's not fully there upstairs, um, because he just wouldn't act the way he acts. And I don't buy it one bit that at one time he was going to be a made member, and that Video Sorrow was pushing for him to get made, and Vinny didn't, or not Vinny, but Ronnie G didn't want to do it because that would take him off from being able to be around him. I don't buy any of that, right? Because for one thing, they said his dad is part Native American. That's why they call him Tonto, right? Some of the troll channels call him that. So how is that possible? Because even they asked his uncle, I mean his cousin Anthony Ruggiano Jr., if he was Native American or if he was related to his dad, and then he said no. But and then I think another question they asked him no, and I think he said that he was related to him on the mother's side, on Gene's mother's side, and then it came up too. They asked Anthony, I think, if he was Native American, and he said no, that's Gene's dad's Native American. So how the hell was he going to be made? I mean, were they? Well, I mean, they were going to make an exception for him just because he has an Italian last name. Excuse me. And is that really his dad's last name, or is that his mom's last name he's going by? Which it doesn't matter. But the reason why I say that is because he made the argument, well, John Jr.'s not fool, but John Jr.'s daddy is fool, and your daddy got to be fool. It doesn't matter what your mom is, your dad got to be fool. So his argument don't hold water because he's like, well, John Jr. wasn't, well, John Jr.'s dad was Italian, straight up. You know what I'm saying? And from my understanding, the mother is straight Italian too. I remember reading back, and I think it was in that Fisher John. I don't remember the guy's first name. Oh no, excuse me, Davis, John Davis book. I remember reading this. This is years ago, over 20 years ago. But I remember reading that it said that Victoria Gotti's stepfather was Russian Jew, not that her father was Russian Jew, and that her stepfather purchased the house in Queens and then gave it to Victoria, and then obviously John. She was married to John. So and not to mention if she's Russian Jew, but yet she's baptized Catholic. So she did her confirmations and all that. The angel even showed the pictures of all that with her mom. So that would be kind of weird, right? Her father's Jew, her father's Russian Jew, but yet she's Catholic. Even though I mean, I would still think that the father would have something to say about that somewhere. I would think, right? I mean, who knows? I mean, fully, but that's what I do remember reading, right? Not that her father was Russian Jew, that Victoria, the mother, I'm talking about, John Gotti Sr.'s wife, John Jr.'s mother, that her stepfather was Russian Jew, not that her father was Russian Jew. So if her stepfather's Russian Jew, that doesn't make her blood any less Italian, right? So, anyways, and of course, Gene is, he jumps on that train too because he don't really like that family no more. Because at one time, I guess he was friends with the son, with Angel's son. I don't know if his name's Lewis too, but nonetheless, these type of guys right here, they can't seem to get out of their way. And what's going to end up happening is, he's going to end up running across the wrong person. The wrong person is going to hurt him bad or kill him. Or it might be the other way around too, where he ends up losing his life anyways to all day in prison because he did some foul moves because he don't think right because of his mental health issues, right? But what I didn't say is that he's been rearrested. I think he got arrested July 20th, which is about a week ago now, in Hillsborough County, which is in Florida. Um, from my understanding, what I try to read some of the articles, but I can't pull them up. I gotta download the app and become a member and subscribe to the app, and I ain't doing all that right now. But the story that I got was that he went into a bar and sometime in January, and he smacked somebody with a beer bottle, and that he decided to go back to that bar on the 20th, and they called the cops, and the cops came and got him and charged him with assault for hitting the person with the beer bottle. So, I mean, again, it just shows you right there they can't stay out of their own way. If you knew you assaulted somebody and smacked them with a beer bottle, which is something pretty serious, right? Depending, and then not only did you hit them with the beer bottle, did it crack? Did it break? Did it cut the person's head all up? I mean, and then you're gonna go back to the place, even though it was 6 months ago. Still don't matter. They're gonna forget who you are? What they sold the business and what they just totally forgot who you are. Nobody's gonna recognize you. And even if they did sell the business, what the same patrons ain't gonna be there as as customers. So obviously this guy don't use his brains too well. If he did, he would have went to prison that time after he flipped and got out and stood out. But he can't seem to stay out of his way, and he likes those toxic relationships because I guess it makes him feel like a man when he smacks a woman around. I guess, threatening their father and doing all the other weirdo stuff. Well, let me take that back. Not weirdo, because weirdo is a whole nother level really to me. But those strange things, you know what I'm saying? That if you're not trying to go backwards in your life, you wouldn't entertain any of that. You know what I'm saying? So this is just a little video. I wanted to get a little away from the politics a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Politics is drainful. Let me tell you. And it's nonstop when you're dealing with a guy like Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? So if you guys didn't know, his last rally, he told the Christians, "Get out there, all you guys Christians, get out there and vote." And I promise you, you only have to vote this the last time because we'll fix it so good. So that's telling you right there, dictator on day one, right? Yeah, if he gets back in there, Project 2025, Agenda 47, on top of all the draconian laws, will be flooding back in, and he's got absolute immunity from the Supreme Court. So he'll be able to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, however he wants, right? And he won't be planning on leaving the White House until they have to carry him out on in a pine box, right? And at which time he'll probably set up John Jr. to continue it going. You know what I mean? Or J.D. Vance, right? Another very strange people these guys are. So with that being said, I'm going to tap on out.